All right, lesson 4. I'm really excited about this lesson because it's kind of plays to my strengths, I guess, because I love planning and organizing. I have a dominant TE function. So, this is where I try to help you get a little bit more organized. It's actually combining this TE, this ability to organize and plan with this NI function, like to be able to dream, but dream on a practical level and curate what it is that you want your life to look like. Okay, so I'm going to start with one of my favorites, titles of song by George Strait. I love the song. I'm not here for a long time. I'm just here for a good time. But here's the thing. When I first married Victor, well, I did party plenty. I do not think the number one thing going on in my mind, in fact, I know, was not like, how can we just go have a good time? I absolutely married Victor because he provided safety, stability, security. I knew he was going to be a good father. I knew that he was grounded and patient. And guess what? At some point, our life changed. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I woke up and kind of didn't happen overnight, but it felt like that. Like, guy, kind of boring now. Like there's this change, and that's not to make Victor look bad or make me look good or me look bad or him look good. It's just that we evolve, we change, and we have to recognize that. And that's why we get to this contract renegotiation. And trust me, we did this. I wish we had a course like this at the time when we were struggling with this because it took us way longer than it should have to just hash it out and be like, this is what I want. This is what you want. Let's address this and let's realize like maybe some of the fighting for what I want and you want, maybe it isn't actually about either one of us. Maybe this is rooted in lesson 1, our childhood trauma, our childhood programming, okay? Our childhood defense. So, here we go. I love this part. So, the number one thing, you're going to have a workbook for this. You're going to use the workbook and you're going to think really carefully about what is a good life. I asked Victor over and over and over and over, what is a good life? What makes you happy? And he used to respond with the worst answer ever. He used to say, you. I'm like, no, no, no. I can't make you happy. You have to make you happy. I make me happy, you make you happy, and together we come together and do happy things. Now that's great in theory. I know you're like, oh, it must be nice. You have this time-rich lifestyle and blah, blah, blah. But it's not because of the lifestyle. We choose the happiness and the lifestyle just follows from it. So that's why it's really important to reinforce this with, hopefully you've done the happier course. And so some of this is a reiteration. Hopefully you've done day 3 of Best Life Blueprint. Some of this is a reiteration. It's so important in those 2 resources that you are looking at things that are measurable, how much time they require, how much money they require. The clearer you can get. Let me give you an example. I really do want this house in Park City or Colorado, probably both one day. I want this beautiful land, maybe outside of Steamboat Springs or outside of Crested Butte, maybe just somewhere where there's aspens and a lot of land. And I'm hoping I have this vision like moose are going to walk through my backyard while I'm having coffee. But simultaneously, I want a house where I can just walk out my door and be on the slopes instantly, ski in, ski out. Now, I do get really caught up in, I want those, I want them, but I don't actually want it now. If somebody told me you could go today to your Park City house or your Colorado house, now I maybe would go to my Colorado one today because it's 100 degrees here in St. George. But overall, I still probably wouldn't because my kids are here in St. George right now and they're happy. So I have this ability to be very realistic in my dreaming. I can dream really big. I know what a good life is, but my good life also involves my kids and it also involves my activities. So realistically, I can speak about these things. I joke and like, but not really joking. I'm serious. I'm like, oh, when we have our Park City house or when we have our retreat land in Colorado and all these things. But if I told myself I need them right now and put that kind of pressure on our marriage, 1, that wouldn't be healthy. And 2, I might be fighting for something that I don't even really want. And I notice, at least from the past, that I used to do that. I used to fight for things or push for things that were either driven from fear, or they were from me not being able to really take a look at my life and go, what would make me happy today? Or maybe what would make me happy next week? Almost everybody I work with has this problem of a timeline. They're projecting way, way out into the future, or then they have trouble managing what's right in front of them. This like middle area of 3 to 6 months, 6 months to a year, sometimes is really hard for them. And anytime I go to like business conferences and stuff, they always talk about how, we kind of overestimate what we can get done in a year and underestimate what we can get done in 3 years, 2 to 3 years. So find that sweet spot. Um, for me, I I love to dream. Like you guys probably know this. Like I'm always dreaming big, but I also like to analyze. I am a number crunching person. So I like to think in woe. If money wasn't an object, what would I do? What would be the most exciting thing? And then I start there and then I go, okay, how much money do I need to make this thing happen? Well, sometimes in the past, especially, I used to aim a little bit too low. I'm trying to up level my aiming, but at the same time, it's hard for me, at least it's hard because I've been able to do it at a certain budget. It's hard for me to rewire my brain to be like, oh, but just because you can do it at this budget doesn't mean you should do it at this budget. And you might relate to me on that. So, so what we're going to talk about in this, like, what is a good life, is you're going to need to write down, like, my face over here, like, is a good life, for me, weekends at tournaments and gymnastics competitions and packed schedules and then coming home and watching TV and like the only fun we had was eating out. Like that was our life for a lot of years. And I got to a point I'm like, this is not fun. I don't like this anymore. And so that was about the time when I read Happier. And so I created the Happier course. And I started thinking about it. Like, I just like being in nature. I love camping. I love campgrounds. I love adventure. I want newness. I need to be active, very active. I want to feel romance in my day. And so romance is newness and novelty, but it's also like having the time and space to be like, hey, I need a hug. Or my husband may be like, hey, you want a massage for 10 minutes? You look tired. And it's like there's this caring and compassionate to our day too. Victor and I've worked together for forever. And so it's nice that, he's not at an office all day, although it's sometimes hard when he's always here too. So we find this balance. But the big thing though to me is a good life is very goal driven. And that ends up being a very big sticking point between my husband and I. Usually our fights come down to actually something silly or that seems intangible, like goals. If it was like, hey, do you like desert or beach? It wouldn't be so hard. But all of a sudden, if I'm like, hey, I value being goal driven, that can create its problems too. So this is this chance in the contract renegotiation to get those cards on the table and be like, hey, what really matters to you? Or is it just your program saying it matters to you? Or are you being aloof and saying, well, nothing matters to me? Because I've had Victor used to be like that, like, whatever, whatever. And he'd say, whatever. And all of a sudden, we're driving 12 hours straight to a destination. He's like, I don't even want to go here. Well, then why'd you say whatever? Right. So we have to be able to evaluate these things. So you have all these resources, analyze and dream through this section. And then it all comes down to action and accountability. It has to go into a yearly calendar, which has to go into a weekly planner, which has to go into a daily to-do list or a daily calendar too, like daily schedule. If you can't take what you're dreaming about and put it into a calendar somewhere, it's not going to happen. And you're going to end up feeling frustrated. So this part is really important to get it to go, what is a good life? Is it something that happens once a year? Is it something that happens once a month? Does it happen something once a week? Is it something that we're doing every day? I mean, my life is so dynamic that I'm going to show you kind of a really brief example of mine, but we have this we have a flow to our seasons. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so when you go to dream, this isn't what I'm talking about yet, but when you go to dream, think about all areas, like your lifestyle and status. Like, what kind of car is important? You guys should be like renegotiate it. Don't go, well, we only make this much money, therefore we drive this car and live in this neighborhood. Okay. Because we're going to hopefully stay and be the hero long enough we can start changing that mindset of what is possible. And maybe it's the other way. Maybe you're like, I only drive a Lexus and I only live in the best areas. And maybe, your soul's saying, like, I really don't care what I drive. For a long time, I was like, I could care less what I drive. I just want to go. I want to be in lots of places. I want to see new things. I just want to get away from it all. Neither's right or wrong, but you have to figure out what is right for you right now. Do you want to travel? Do you like adventure? Do you hate travel? Do you hate adventure? What's your expectation around health, fitness, mindfulness? Are you caught up in present or future oriented? That's one that goes with the goals for Victor and I. That's a big thing. He is very much present oriented and I'm very much future oriented. So when we do a contract renegotiation, we have to sit and literally say, like, how much of the day when we get together are we going to talk about present and how much future? I know that sounds crazy, but there's a chance you have the same thing in your relationship. When we sit down to have a glass of wine or go for a run, Victor's brain likes to take in all the environment. Hey, look at that cactus there. Hey, my client said this today. Did you see this? And my brain's thinking, okay, well, where are we going next week? Okay, which Airbnb are we getting? Okay, like I'm in the, and so we've had to, sorry, I said that fast. We have to slow down and we have to really actually divide up the time. Hey, you talk about the present for 15 minutes and then he'll think of questions to ask me about the future, or I'll just say, hey, I want to talk about the Airbnb. It can be exhausting because it takes so much more intention, but it solves a lot of frustration. Okay, kids' schedules, kids' friends, like where are you drawing the lines? Where's the boundaries? Friends can come over one weekend a month. Friends come over every weekend. We're busy every weekend. How many weekends should we have free? Boring stuff like what are we put how much maintenance do we need to do? For Victor and I, for a very long time, when we had a house with a swimming pool, a silly fight would be over pool maintenance. It was the dumbest thing when I look back, but it's real. It's like the real stuff you end up arguing about. So just have it as a one-time meeting and be like, okay, let's just draw a line on this is what we spend for maintenance. And if it goes past this line, what, we leave it broken, or maybe we think about downsizing to a different house, to an RV, to whatever. Just change things up. Think what is possible. Lots of things are possible, right? If you're thinking narrow-mindedly, then it means there's something in your programming that's keeping you in that root chakra, safety and security. Okay. Consumerism. Do we buy toys? Do we buy new gears, new clothes? Do we shop at Lululemon, or do we get yoga leggings at Costco? It's silly, right? Silly little things, but it matters. Other things like charity, service, community. How much time do we spend in our church? How much time, do we spend socializing? All these little things add up, make a big difference. Okay, so I'm going to just use a very small example, but I think it gets the point. So for us, I mean, we have this like fun lifestyle where I get to plan. We all sit down and and this happens often in our family. This was one just the last week. We had an amazing year. I said, hey, let's dream big. Let's talk about, we put on note cards, all the places we went this last year. And I say, hey, do we want to go again? And so everybody, this was the list: Colorado, Black Hills, Park City, Big Sky, Ten Sleep, San Diego, Hawaii, Costa Rica, Big Sky, Sun Valley, Sandpoint, Bend, Mammoth, Tahoe, Seaside, Oregon. Okay, so we all said, yes, yes, yes. These are the places we liked. And there were a few that like Lake Tahoe. Nobody really liked Lake Tahoe that much, so we got rid of it. There are a few other places. And so how long? How long do we want to go? And so we all sit down and go, well, okay, 2 months in Colorado next summer/fall. We might not hit fall colors this year, so let's make sure we do that. Okay, then I'll take it and I get all of these things stacked up and I put a calendar and then I start placing it, right? I'll start with I have like a calendar that I can put on the wall with like a whiteboard, and I'll put all the spots, but couldn't get my whiteboard on here. Guess I could have, but I just kind of started arranging it on this PowerPoint presentation and said, okay, well, this needs to be here. This is here. We start to figure out, okay, this is what our year is going to look like. It's softly in a calendar. So we start with dream and want. What do I want? Okay. Then we'll take these things and I start going, okay, how much money do we need for these things? I've traveled a lot enough to be like, hey, most of our Airbnbs in these spots, 150 a night. But when we're in these spots, 250 a night. Okay, we can stay in a campground here. That's only this. Now, for us, we don't have that many expenses. But for you, this is the chance where you go like, let's take a hard look at what our fixed expenses are and question, are they fixed? When we decided to move into an RV, actually, it was really when we decided to travel 6 months through Europe that I really got nitpicky about our budget. I cut everything for a long time and just kept putting things just to savings because we were able to like move into our RV and have zero expenses other than food and wherever we decided to park it. So which meant for a long time, if I wanted to free camp or boondock, we had no housing expense either. We did have gas expense though, right? Our gas went up a lot. So there is a lot of things that feel like they're necessities, but aren't actually. And again, it goes back to that choosing your lifestyle. What does the lifestyle look like that you want to live? And then eventually, like maybe you get through all of this, you're like, okay, I need to reframe my mindset around money, or I need to change careers, or I need to start another business or a side hustle or whatever. We'll get into the changing the money later. The big thing is like taking the wants and figuring out, what does this cost? Not can I afford it? What does this cost? How much money do I need to manifest? All right. The next thing I do is I take it into a happiness budget. This really plays off of that the book Happier or the course Happier, which is from the book. This is a very short example, but I know Tatiana, she loves to mountain bike now. So a big thing for our families, we have to be active. Everybody's maybe not Victor as much, but even still Victor likes to get a workout in every day. But the rest of us are like, if we don't exercise at a certain intensity, we don't sleep. And so Tatiana will be like, hey, I like to mountain bike twice a week. That sounds good. But she wouldn't like it if we were hiking every single day. That's not her favorite thing. She will do it, but she's like, this is happiness, right? I want the kids' input. I want my husband's input. I put my input. So I'll go, okay, gymnastics. We come to St. George and a couple other places in the US just so she can do gymnastics. Hey, when we're here, let's make sure you get in at least twice a week, maybe more. Indoor climbing. Jariah, he needs at least 2 things of physical activities every day. He's making a happy teen course. And he is so happy because he's so goal driven and he needs time for his like music every day. He has work goals, he helps cook and he helps clean. So it's really important every day every night, he writes out his schedule for the next day and like, this is all the stuff that I want to accomplish. And this is like the order in which I'm going to do it. For me, as you can imagine, I need yoga to chill out. But I still need to like lift or climb. I want to run or hike most days. Victor needs jujitsu a couple times a week, yoga a couple times, indoor climbing. So we start with the same way I did with the yearly. Now we're looking at our week. Okay, this is what's most important. Here's the thing with this. I catch if you have kids, they are really good at saying what they want, right? I want to go here. I want to do, gymnastics. I want to have my friends over this, but they aren't necessarily seeing what you want. So that's where I think this is an important exercise to do as a family because they need to see the things that make you happy. We did this from such a young age that my kids, they know like, hey, mom really likes to go, hike this many times, go to yoga. The thing is like, because this is a little separate note, but because of the foundation I laid for it, they like to do the stuff too. But it was never a matter of forcing them. It was that I was so happy, they naturally wanted in that frequency. They enjoy doing it. So again, that can be for another lesson, but just help your kids develop self-compassion and other compassion by being able to say like, hey, look, these are the things I like to do too. Let's make this happen for me. Because sometimes fear and guilt can get in the way for us as parents. And you're being who you want your kids to do by setting an example for that. Okay, so what does your day look and feel like? That's what it basically comes down to, right? whatever we plan for the year, for the month, for the week, comes down to how does my day look and feel? If your day looks and feels awful, stressful, then you need to step back for a second and go, what are tasks that I can control and what are tasks that I can delegate first? For me, I love grocery shopping, so I kind of like to be a control freak there. I'm not going to let my kids send out the emails. Well, I let the older kids for other blogs, but certain courses I'm going to take control over. I like to plan the travel, but a lot of things I delegate way more than I did when my kids were younger. More not because they weren't capable, because I've become less of a control freak. So dishes, I rarely do dishes. I don't do the laundry hardly ever, although sometimes I do because I do like to do laundry a little bit. I don't do that much of the cooking anymore. The daily activities here on Be the Hero, Gabby takes care of it. She's great at it. I don't need to control that. She's more brilliant than I am at that stuff, but she'll touch base with me. So what can you delegate and what can you control? Now, there's a sticking point I'm going to say. This is not all harmony, at least in our family, because uh we have we don't have a very consistent lifestyle, right? Sometimes we're in different places, sometimes we're mountain biking, sometimes we're in places where we don't have a routine. It just so happens in St. George for 1 month we kind of have a routine. Sometimes it's like, hey, we're at this one destination where it's all mountain biking, then we're in another destination where it's really big hikes, so we're getting up at 3 a.m. or things like that. You want just that pace, that type of pace affected our marriage a lot. So even if it's like, what does your day look and feel like? It might not be the task. It might be the energy frequency of what your day looks and feels like that you need to have a contract renegotiation about. One of you might be moving just way faster than the other. And then that brings up the next point. Is part of that contract renegotiation a dialogue about me, you, and us? Meaning, I like to run fast. If Victor would give me a hard time, like, gosh, you're never here, or you're always doing these things. And I'm like, hey, well, like, do you really like these things? No, but I want to be around you. Like, well, okay, but I shouldn't self-sacrifice some of these things that I enjoy just so you can be around me more. You have to decide in your relationship but I know for us, that growth towards independence helped a lot, but it was really hard for us for a very long time. So feel into what that expectation is in how much time you're spent together. And maybe it's having more independent time so that when you come together, there's more presence and connection. Okay, so here's how we do it. Last little bit. So this is all of that's in your workbook, you're thinking. Now it's time for the offer, right? Kind of like our last lesson. So I was thinking that, for winter, instead of using the RV and having to tow through winter, because last winter we crashed one of our RVs and it was kind of scary, right? I was thinking that we should just jump from Airbnb to Airbnb for the winter. Okay. That would maybe be my offer or Victor's offer to me about like, hey, let's make this comfortable. And then I go, okay, let's pretend, because Victor actually would want this even more than I would. He said, so I really have this vision for Airbnbs all winter for ski season. And I'll say, I want this because I just don't like to have to juggle or worry about road conditions. It's just so much easier to be in the truck. I like having our own bedroom, having space. It'll be much easier then all the kids can be with us if they want. Those all help him. Those are all important to his core desire as being the helper, and for his personality type, that he's like, I'd rather challenge myself in the gym. I don't want to challenge myself with towing in the ice and snow. So then I can see him for that. I can understand, okay, I get that. I get that. And then he's coming like, but hey, I want it with you. You are important to me. And I think whatever the thing is that we want it kind of sounds silly, right? It's like, duh, of course you want it with me. But sometimes that's not what we hear. As a spouse, sometimes we hear like, you're not enough for me. I want this thing because you're failing me. And that might not be what we're saying, right? So it's really important to validate, hey, you're important. I want this with you. Maybe we could have this thing together. Okay, I know understand that Airbnb is not the best example in that, but and Victor, because I manage, let's say control, I manage more of the money, he might come to me and say like, "Hey, I really want this with you. I know you're tough. I know you can tow through the ice. I know you can handle the cold, but I just think we connect better. And I understand this might cause you stress because you might start worrying about our budget or, it might make you feel worried that you have to plan something different. Like, just let me know. What are your thoughts about this? Or you ask, like, hey, is this desirable? What do you think and feel? Right? It's the same pattern all the time. We're making this ask, this validating, we're showing each other respect and significance, and then saying, like, hey, this is where I'm coming from, but like, tell me what you're thinking. And then the last is you negotiate, like observe this request, reiterate, make sure you actually understand. Ask clarifying questions. So let me just make this sure I'm right here, Victor. So ski season for us is anywhere between 13 and 16 weeks. Are you sure you want to do all of those? And he might come back to me. I mean, I might say, hey, that's like $20,000, but it would be only $10,000 if we did it for half. We could come back and forth, and he might be like, oh, okay, I get it that you're thinking for money, but hey, I really think that this is where I get joy. And I know you tend to worry about the money. Why don't I come in and like manage some of our finances a little bit so that I can take some off your plate? Okay, I know you're feeling like this is a little cheesy, but like it gets less cheesy the more you practice. Okay, so we're relating, acknowledging core desires, expressing thoughts and feelings, starting with the parts that are really desirable. What's the highest thing? Remember, just like last time in the last lesson, what are the top three requests you want to make? We can't like maybe abandon every single lifestyle choice, commitment we have, but what are the highest ones that you want to work on first? Maybe make a list for yourself. All the things you thought of, just just work on those top three for now and give it a month or two and then come to the next three. And then be able to go back and forth in a calm way so that you have a common dream or goal or vision or dock or island that you want so that you both can see, hey, I'm this independent ship, you're an independent ship, we're both going to this dock. Or what I usually tell Victor is like, hey, we have this amazing life. We're on this island of papayas, and I love papayas, but you know what? On that next island, I think there's papayas and guavas and maybe even pineapples too. And I really like pineapples and you really like guavas. Let's swim to this next island together. And that's kind of how our negotiation goes. And then we're going to come revisit it in 3 months or 6 months or whenever I have a crisis. No, we keep going back and forth. So I think that got me to the end. I think this is where we're going to start lesson 5. So that's a wrap. Do the workbook. Let me know in the comments what you think.